Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for another special edition of WOWSA Live with our host, Ned Denison. Ned?
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. We're with one of our honorees, Albert Coward, who is famous for swimming every bit of water that exists in Naples Bay, Italy. Naples is also famous as one of the real homelands of open water swimming, marathon swimming. From 1954 to 1992, you can certainly argue that from Capri to Naples was the most important race in Europe on the professional circuit. And in many years, it was almost considered the world championship. Albert has done that swim as a solo traditional swim. But Albert, let's go to you. You picked up open water swimming at kind of a late age of 32 after decades of playing rugby. Tell us a bit about your start in open water swimming, your experience in the UK, and then more importantly, your big swims in the Bay of Naples.
Fine, okay. Yes, well, at the age of 32, I was father to a 2-year-old boy. And my Italian wife, I had an Italian wife, who suggested that I may, rather than continue with my rugby, I should take up a less injurious sport. So the big question was, what could I do? So in the summer of this is what, 72, we were over in Italy for the summer holidays, and all the three sisters would collect all their children, and in the afternoon we stayed at a place on the Amalfi Coast, and we would rent a place so that we could all be together. And the children would go down to the beach in the morning with the parents. They would play around, learn to swim, just enjoy themselves, go home, have lunch, and have a nap, a siesta in the afternoon. So about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the whole maritime shores were deserted. And I remember one particular day, and this is where it all began, where I couldn't sleep in an afternoon. So I wandered down to the beach, and I saw two boats moored some 200 yards apart from each other. So I thought, I wonder if I could swim from there to there, which I did. Then I said, well, that was okay. No problem with that. So then I swam back, and then I continued like this most of the afternoon. The rest of my holiday was spent swimming up and down. Now, I'd been a good swimmer at school, but rugby had taken the upper hand in all my physical activities, and I had, in fact, remember that from the age of 16 to 18, for 3 years, I'd won the Open 100 Yards Championship from the school, which didn't really mean very much in those days because we weren't a swimming school. We were a rugby playing school. And in the north of England, you have rugby schools or rugby playing schools or soccer schools. And the headmaster quite categorically once got all the boys together and said, remember, boys, the shape of the ball is oval. You're not allowed to kick a football around. So anyway, the point is that I could swim okay. There's no worry about that. So got back to Halifax, where I was working in a local grammar school, and I went down to the local bus to ask about distance swimming or open air swimming. And someone said, well, you're very lucky because there's a man called John Slater here, who is the secretary of the BLDSA, the British Long Distance Swimming Association. So I met John, and he told me all about swimming. And he said, but before we go any further, how far have you ever swum? Oh, I don't know, really. He says, go up to Bradford's Baths and go and swim 1 mile and then report back, which I duly did. So I remember this saying, I've done the swim, I managed the mile, John, I said, what is the time? And I told him, and he said, oh, you're a breaststroke swimmer, are you? I said, no, no, John, I'm a crawl swimmer. Oh, anyway, not to be deterred, he mentioned, he said that when you go up to Bradford ever, go and meet Jack Kerwin. I said, well, who is Jack Kerwin? Well, he was the first man to swim Ullswater in 1957. So I met Jack, and this was the beginning of a fantastic relationship, because Jack had the key to the open air baths where Barry Watson used to train. Now, Barry, I've never met him. We were in the same Bradford long distance swimming club, but he was of a different decade, let's say, from me. So we trained all winter. I went up to see Jack at the weekends, and Saturday and Sunday, or we would probably swim 2 miles one day and 3 miles the other, as a preparation for swimming Coniston waters, which were 5.5 miles, 5.25 miles. So we did all our training, and Jack had the key for the baths. The key was a kind of magic key. I remember going up when the hydrants were open for the cold water to come in from the mountains, from the hilltops in Yorkshire, and we stood under this torrent of water pouring down upon us, and it was cold, but yet it was not cold. And Jack said, you've got to wait for the golden glow, because you're cold, you're neither cold nor hot, you're both. And it was true. But eventually, when the pool filled up, we would practice swimming up and down to get used to cold water. And I think the temperature would settle at about 57 degrees Fahrenheit. And that was okay, that was good. I found that in 57, 58, you could more or less swim anything. You might go up to the lakes and find 52, but you could manage if you'd been training in 57 to 58, which was a pool, the temperature of the waters in the Bradford open air swimming pool. So, we went up to the lakes. We attempted this lake swim, Coniston, and I managed to do it. And at the next weekend, I went with John Slater, who had offered to swim the Windermere, to accompany me on a Windermere swim, which I duly did. I managed to do it in a time which was not to be mentioned, but I did the swim and I was delighted. I was over the moon. And that's more or less the introduction.
For our viewers, John Slater is also an inductee of the organization, very influential in the British Long Distance Swimming Association. And when Albert talks about Windermere, if you go back in those decades, Lake Windermere was really kind of the home of British swimming alongside the English Channel, and all of the greats from those eras cut their teeth in Windermere. Albert, how did you end up in Naples swimming everything that exists down there?
Okay, well, I had a sabbatical the following year. I was working in the grammar school, and I said, could we have a year off? And which I got, and we went to Naples, and I got hooked on an outdoor swimming by this time, obviously, and I saw that there were 3 wonderful islands in the Bay of Naples, and I contrasted this with the 3 lakes up in Windermere, in the Lake District of England, and I had read in The Tempest of Shakespeare about the father of, who was the King of Naples, Alfonso, who had been drowned, and the words, it was from a song by Ariel, We said, full fathom 5, thy father lies, of his bones are coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Nothing of him doth fade, but that suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. Now, that sea change for me was somehow connected with moving from the lakes in the brackish water of the north of England, in the Lake District, to the sea, change into the sea. These 3 islands, the 3 lakes have now become islands. And I thought, oh, I've got to swim these. It's as simple as that. I've done the lakes up in England. I've got to go the islands in the Gulf on the Bay of Naples.
And Albert, these islands, were these something you looked at a map, or were you standing on the hillside going, I want those, they're right there, they're mine?
I can see across this and approaching it now while we're speaking. Capri I cannot see because it's due south and there's a big house blocking the view.
Okay.
But I became fascinated by these islands, and I met a swimmer. I was introduced to a swimmer, Maurizio Castagna, who'd done the Capri Naples swim the year before, in '74, and he took me under his wing and allowed me to introduced to the Carabinieri, and I swam with the Carabinieri for quite a while. They gave me space. I wasn't in their level of swimming. They had 2 or 3 swimmers preparing for the Capri Naples, but they allowed me to swim with them. But I also preferred to swim a lot in the pool, but I enjoyed also swimming outdoors throughout the year. That was great. Yes. Yeah.
And so tell us about your actual swims from these islands. How far are they? What kind of challenge was it for you?
Well, they are equidistant. You've got Capri. I always started from Ischia Castle and then Naples Castle. These are Aragonese castles, okay? Because we had the Spanish over from Aragon in the 16th century. So we had these 2. There was an 18-mile swim from Ischia to Naples. Then I reckon, I don't know, I've seen that Ischia Naples is given us 36 kilometers. I can't get much more than 33 kilometers from it. And then another 18 miles from Ischia across to Capri. So I eventually did all, not all together, but separately I managed to do them.
And when you swim from an island to shore, there's something very comforting about it. It's big, it's in front of you, and it's kind of hard to miss. When I swim to an island, it's kind of a small target, and it doesn't take much of a current. Did you have any issues swimming to the island?
To the island, not really, no. But what I found, I could also swim around Ischia, which is an 18-mile swim. And at the moment, an American friend of ours, Dan Curtis, is preparing for this, and I will be on Dan's boat hopefully in October. So we'll be going around there. But that swim is fascinating. I've done it. Chris Stockdale's done it. But on every corner, you've got a different situation. You might have a nice calm bit. They go around the corner, as it were, and you've got force something or other swimming into it. So it would never stay constant at all. Yes, but they're beautiful. They're beautiful islands in themselves. Yes.
And a lot of your swims were together with Chris Stockdale, Dr. Chris Stockdale, MBE, who's also an honorary. Tell us how you met Chris and how you enticed him down to Naples.
Okay, well, in 1982, just a couple of days prior to the Capri Naples swim, I got a telephone call from Mrs. Audrey Scott of the CSA. And she said, "Oh, Albert, I know that you're a resident here. I've had calls from you before. I've got a swimmer here called British swimmer, and he needs someone to liaise between himself, who will be in the water, and the oarsman, let's say the pilot." I said, "Well, I'll be delighted to help you, Mrs. Scott." So I met Chris Stockdale, and then Mrs. Scott on the front at the cafe where everyone meets, the Ondine. And just half an hour before the swim started, he told me what he wanted. And so I made a note of all this, and off we went. He was swimming, feeding every hour on the hour. And we made good progress. But unfortunately, I saw that the leaders, most of the other swimmers were pulling away from us, and I got a bit worried about this. And then I saw the judges' boat passing around with Lele Barbuto, who was the organizer from FINA and from Il Mattino that had organized the swim, and together with General Zorcani. And they said, Mr. Signor Lele Barbuto shouted out, "Come on, you've got to get a move on because you're not going to get home in time." I said, "Don't worry, Lele, we'll get him there." And this went on for a while because the boatman wanted to get back to Capri. They all want to get back. They don't think about the swimmer. I mean, he's come out here all this way, and we were approaching the finish, still lagging behind, and you say, "I'm afraid you'll have to get out. Get him out, Albert. Get him out into the boat." I said, "No, I'm sorry, Lily. No way is this man getting out of the water now. He's got plenty of swimming left. I'm sorry, the boatman may be a few minutes late." This is all in beautiful rhetoric in Italian. See, this was, after all, was it Demosthenes? No, it wasn't Demosthenes, but it was, yes, some philosopher who said, "Vir peritus loquendi." We're trying to produce a man who is skilled in speech, and so I used all my best Italian and tried to persuade this organizer, this chairman, to allow us to finish. So eventually, we were allowed to go round the corner and swim along the half-mile bit in front on the seafront, where all the people were gathered together, waiting for the last swimmer to come in, and Chris managed to get home in 11:32. Okay, and he was delighted, obviously. The winner of that particular edition of the swim was Paul Asmuth in a new record time of 6 hours. No, Chris did 11:30. Paul Asmuth did 6:35. So the same swim, a 5-hour difference, but we managed to get him in.
And Chris is an honor swimmer, Albert. I presume a lot of that extra time was down to bad boatmanship by yourself and the pilot.
Oh yes, I'm sure it was. But no. Yeah, but point taken. Yes, we got him in. Anyway, that was the main thing. I said, I remember I was going to play the card that don't forget your guest today, your special guest, Mrs. Scott, has brought the swimmer all the way from England, and she would be greatly disappointed if he failed to finish the swim. Point taken, but I didn't use that particular card. I got him out.
So that's where you met Chris. He was obviously delighted you postponed the end of the swim until he could make it. And how did you get him down for your first joint swim together?
Yeah, well, Chris used to come over with his wife during the summer holidays. So I found several swims for him to do that we could do together, organized swims. There was one, an inshore swim in Ischia, was another one, Torregava to Bahia, all along the coasts, the various coasts near in the Gulf, in the Bay of Naples, and nearby. So he enjoyed doing those swims and then going off to enjoy the rest of his holiday, lying on the beaches in Ischia. He really enjoyed his Ischia. But this takes it to 1986, Ned, when I remember, no, it was 1985 when we were sat out here with the nautical chart of the Gulf of the Bay of Naples, and we were looking for a charity swim because Chris was a charity swimmer. And I said, well, what venue could we do? And we started measuring, and we found that if we wanted to become marathon swimmers, we would have to swim a marathon, being 43 kilometers, 26 miles thereabouts. And the widest part was from from west to east, from Ischia Castle, over to Castellammare. Now we made inquiries, and the port authorities told us that in no way could we land in the port, but you could. There's a little a little village, well, a little stretch of water, a stretch of seaside place where holiday makers go, and you could finish there, but the distance was the same. So we set it up, but it was difficult to set up because we could not get an authority from the Capitaneria del Porto, the people responsible for giving permission for people to do activities in the bay. But the news got out that we were going to attempt a cross-bay swim. And fortunately, my wife was working at the tourist board in Naples, and the words were spread that we were going to attempt the swim for charity. I think that was a magic point. And these swimmers were going to do a swim for at least one of them, who was a charity swimmer, who were going to attempt the crossing and raise money for his hospital and help children with health problems. Anyway, we found eventually who was it? Let's get this right. The tourist board for Castellammare, the tourist office in Castellammare is all divided up into various areas, said that they would sponsor us, they would provide us with a hotel for a couple of nights, and at the finish and the end, well, no, it was one night each, and then provide us with the boats. And that was it. We set off at midnight on this, it was 12th of August, 1986. We set off, we've got a photograph, I had a lot of grease put on with chafing areas under the arms. Christy likewise. We set off at midnight from Ischia port, from the castle in Ischia. Swam through the night. It was great, wonderful. The trouble is that it was that time when you saw there was a film, Lo Squalo, which was the shark films. And if you remember those films, you saw everything from the point of the view of the shark, and you could see the swimmer above. So this thought would come into your mind, and I told the crew to dim all lights just like, let's see the green and the red. But after about 4 hours, the sun was up, and it was great. But it was a wonderful swim. We both finished with 20 minutes difference. I'm not going to say who was first, but it was me. It's a fantastic, enjoyable swim.
So last question for you, Albert.
Yes.
You also completed a double Lake Windermere, which is 21 miles, if my memory serves me right.
That's right, yes.
Compare a double Lake Windermere in fresh water with limited visibility to a 33-kilometer swim in Naples Bay in the daytime.
Okay, well, yes. On the two-way Windermere, I started off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the fast boys and girls would start off at midnight. Now, I enjoyed starting off at 5 because the evening would blend into the night, and I found this wonderful transition of no problem. It was great, and it's a bit colder, but by that time I was acclimatized to cold water. It was very enjoyable. What I found, I don't know whether this happens to other people, but on the boat, the accompanying boat, I did not want to see anyone relaxing. It's a psychological thing. On the swims over here in the Bay of Naples, I can't abide anyone to relax. I'm working, they've got to work in the same way. I say, just look busy. And I tell this every time on a swim. I don't want to see it. I don't know, it unnerved me. I don't know, I must be a bit strange in that sense. Yeah. But I really enjoy swimming in the bay here. It's wonderful. And I believe this is your swims, isn't it, Ned? You don't forget, I want to see that Capri Naples swim.
Hopefully soon. So Albert, it's not an unusual experience for the swimmers not to want to see the crew enjoy themselves too much. I'll just relay 2 stories of one of my friends on the English Channel swim. Yes. It turned out to be a beautiful afternoon, and the entire crew was up on the top deck having lunch. Oh. And my swimmer completely lost it. A friend of mine yelling and screaming about them of cucumber sandwiches with the crust cut off, and only one day in his entire life he asked for their help. But my little story is we once a year try to have a bit of a torture swim in Ireland to prepare people for things. And one of the common things we do is we lash the safety boats together for lunch. And we tell the swimmers to swim around the boats while we have lunch, the crews. Oh. Yeah. And then often I'll hold up the biggest roast beef sandwich in the world, and I'll describe to people why I think this is the greatest roast beef sandwich ever made by man, and have a big old bite to it. And it just, you want the swimmers' brains to get used to the fact that strange, torturous things might happen, but you have to keep focused. Great. So you're not the only one. Albert, I want to thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to seeing you in Italy in the very near future, and hopefully getting my name on that Capri list. But I could use you. I could use your influence with the organizers when it comes to timekeeping. Okay, anytime. By the way, would you like me to ring Luciano or not? Or no, we'll catch Luciano later. Okay. Well, many thanks. It was great.